Hey everyone, on the last video I showed you how I was putting together my six-wheeler truck out of two Nitro buggies. One Nitro buggy pretty complete and the other one most main parts being there. And I started with the main problem, which was the gearbox, which I was really happy with, which is part one. And then in part two I went on to how I put the gearbox in and then how I've hooked up the axles from the main spinning gear system in the middle, which runs them all, and it looked pretty fine. I was rolling it around there, getting a idea of if everything was running smooth and stuff. But what I did notice is that I didn't accidentally inverted the rear wheels, so as the rear wheels were going forward, which was fine, both of the rear wheels going forward, the front wheels were actually going backwards, which sucked. Because I did accidentally, after changing the housing, inverted the actual gearing system, which is never very helpful. So what I did, pretty cheesed off at myself for not working it out in the first place, because yeah, I took a bit of a gamble. It was mainly when I put this together, I was aiming on getting the cutting right and the pieces correct to fit in place. So that when I've now inverted the rear gearboxes, as in I took this set of wheels off, turned it upside down, took that gearing housing and put it on this one, and then this gearing housing which was on this one, I turned these upside down and put it on that one, and used a few extra parts from the second buggy I had. And on the previous video, if you remember, I had a block here, a square off here, but on this, to make this one fit perfect, I've got a round axle hole here, which is like one that would go over there, for example, in the middle, and you can see one coming out here. So it's no longer a block off it. I've had to use one that gives, entry to the axles, but it's no problem because I can either always take that off or leave it as it is. There's no mud or anything getting into the actual gearbox housings. They're tight as they can be. So that was pretty sweet. I actually fixed that now, and as you can see, when this turns, you see that this bar, this axle here and this axle here turn the same way, and that turns forward and that turns forward, but then this axle here is inverted, which goes the opposite way and drives that, but that does go forward. So all 6 of the wheels are now going forward, and you can tell that it's all geared up correctly because the drive shaft here is trying to move all 6 of the axles, or at least 2 of them while I'm not rolling it about the place, but it works charm because I've tested it. And after fixing that little minor hiccup, as in quite a key hiccup there, I've now gone on to taking the top plating for the truck, something along that line. Want it to look something like that with a cabinet casing over it. And I put a whole plate in here because it had a really nice case on the top. So that's where the starter plug goes in, that's where the glow plug goes in to send an electric charge through the spark plug. You need that to start the engine up, the Nitro engine up on this thing. And then I've got a cap for the thing, so once the engine started, I could put the cap on, which will keep, any mud, dirt that's trying to sneak past the engine and the spark plug and get into the main cabin here. I started off with a few CD-ROM metal covers, and I was quite happy because I could mould them and change them. I've bolted quite a lot of them in place. Underneath you'll see that I've put some support bars, one on that side of the exhaust system. Them support bars are from the original trucks, so I just put holes in the appropriate places on this sheet and then used them again. They're very lightweight, but they're really strong, so I can have a bit of a kind of cantilever going over the front wheels here, like a hanger lean over type thing, and it should be pretty strong. So I did that, and I bolted together the top. There's all the bolts, and there's about 20 bolts in there. And then I've just started working on some kind of, what would you say that, like a connector a bracket. Yeah, a bracket will do. Brackets to connect up to these main suspension parts. So this bracket here I've just started making, and I've just bolted in place, and it's pretty solid. You know what I mean? That's a pretty solid gear. It's a pretty solid connector. It's not giving or anything like that. That one is a 3.5-inch laptop cover, which I've sawed up because I liked the side brackets. You see how it's like already had a side bracket, so I thought, yeah, I can use that. And I've bolted it in place using the original suspension bolts that hold kind of the spine of the thing. So I've got a bit of a bracket, and then I've put holes in it so I can put holes in the back of there and line everything up and drill it and put bolts through it. And I've just started a second one here, which I'll then be putting on, and I'll probably be facing it this way, so I've got a bit of, you know, support through all of the thing. And don't forget that the hole and metal is going to sit over this glow plug, so that glow plug's solid in place. I can use that. I'm not bothered about heat going through that thing into the chassis. Bugger that. And what else was there? Then yeah, I'm going to do another bracket here, but the bracket is going to go onto these pins, I think, here, and it's going to be higher because the back spines of these things are higher at the back. Them two are higher than this one up front. So I'll build a bit of a higher bracket so it all balances off, and then put my metal down and start, you know, fiddling it to get into place. One thing that was annoying me, because I was thinking I'm going to have to be waiting for pipes and things, is the carburetor on the engine here, that has an air intake, and usually you put an air filter over the intake, so that's the air filter, and that filter there literally just sat over that hole. And as it was a little buggy, it could still suck plenty of air in as, you know, it's flying over the top of the bugger. But I want to extend this, because if I extend this out of, you know, mud reach, as in past the chassis, and get it above the chassis roof, so as there'll be like a bit of a cabin on the back of this thing, so there'll be a cabin here, you can just see where I've started kind of fashioning the thing. On the side of the cabin coming up, you'll have this coming out the side, so as the truck's going along it can collect air and send it to the motor, plenty of air. It's on the opposite side of the exhaust system, so it's not sucking exhaust fumes back in. And then I'll run this pipe in, this hose pipe into the carburetor hole, which is that hole there. And because the piping's too small for and the hole's too big, so I can't get the pipe over the hole, I forgot that you could just get either a blowtorch, which I don't have, or you can just get the lighter and leave the lighter on it, and when it's kind of warmed up and got a bit malleable, then jam the damn thing in and then put cable tie around it. So that'll be the next job, but I just wanted to correct my own mistakes, because this is me, man. This is me just having a go at the thing. If I make a mistake, I'll tell you. You know, I'm not going to cover it up. People make mistakes, leave me alone. So yeah, I wanted to correct my mistake, which was the axles going in there fine, but the rear wheels inverting because of the gear motors, the gearing changing and being inverted, so therefore the wheels are inverted, going backwards instead of forwards, type thing. And now I've corrected that. It just means you have to fiddle with the housings and make sure that when you're putting it together, they're all going the same way, and this gear system in the middle is running both axles to the back and the front, rather than just running the front and then the front running the back, which is slightly different there. So this at the moment, this main gear here runs, it sends turn to this axle and turn to this axle. But before, as it was set up before, when I had these upside down type things, so I had to flick them round, it sent power to that axle. This gear sent power to that axle, but not that axle. But then after this gear sent power to this axle then sent power back through that axle. So it's kind of complicated, but it does make a difference. But the answer is if you are having a go, you try them this way, you try them one way, try that going forward, pushing that forward, see which way they turn, and if they turn the correct way, then just put it on, you know, screw it all up. But if they turn the wrong way, then flick them round, mess with the gearing housings, put them back together again, and then it will work. I mean, you do. I've proved through this video at least that if you take two of these buggies, then you know for a fact that with all the pieces throughout the two buggies, you can at least make one six-wheeler with the axles turning the correct way and the gearbox working. So that's one thing I've proved at least from this. Not like that's like going to win me a Nobel Prize or anything. But yeah, I thought I'd stop before I started bolting these plates on, just to give you to show you what's going on and to, you know, point out my own mistakes there. No problems with those. And yeah, then the next one I'll have bolted this up, worked out if I'm going to weld up the cabin structure, because I was going to weld some of the front on. I thought it'd look pretty cool if it had weld, you know, around it when there's a cabin on there. And with weld it might just keep a bit of extra water out. So yeah, in the next one of this I will actually show how I'm putting the wireless camera in there. I'm going to rig it up to some power banks, little lithium ion cells, and also how I'm going to rig up the waterproof lighting and set out all the electronics. So yeah, it takes time, these things, but I'm getting there. Hope everyone's sticking with me and enjoying these videos. If you're not making one yourself, then, you know, at least it gives a bit of insight on, you know, how these things are put together. And yeah, thanks for watching, guys, and I will catch you around. So see yous, bye.